Welcome to the Morning Coffee Show. I'm Prince Hakeem.
I'm Mandela.
And today we have a great topic for you all. Before we get into that, thank you so much for tuning back in, following us on all our social media platforms. And if you have a second, go ahead and hit that button down at the below to get notified of any new shows coming up as well. And make sure you go follow us on Facebook at The Morning Coffee Show and on Instagram at The Morning Coffee Show. And so today's topic is, and some of y'all are going to benefit from this. We'll keep it light, but we also will give you some really good information. It's about boundaries and why they're so important. Boundaries can be many different things. It could be within your regular business life, in your friendship life, in your relationship life.
Every
part
aspect of your life.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, just having conversations with so many different people over the last few weeks, I've been noticing like boundaries has been like a big piece. And we're not realizing when we either not setting appropriate boundaries or when we don't even know how to. So we're going to talk about some of that stuff there.
Or have no understanding of what they are.
Yeah. Do you think that's something that kind of starts when you're young?
Definitely.
And if your parents don't really teach you boundaries, because you see kids that go out in public and don't understand boundaries. They go wherever they want to go and do what they want to do.
So I think, first of all, boundaries come in so many different, and I'm not going to reference the book, but I'll show you guys the book that I looked at. It's a New York Times bestseller by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend, but it goes into, and I didn't even notice this, but I'm just going to look at the table of contents really quick so you guys can get an understanding. Boundaries with family, friends, spouse, children, work, boundaries and the digital age, boundaries and yourself, boundaries and God. So there's so many different ways to look at what boundaries are and how to implement them in specific places, and not really what's okay and what's not okay, because it's really about you and what you feel is okay and not okay. Mm-hmm. But it's about being able to draw that line for others. Yeah. And saying like, I'm comfortable with this, or respecting other people's boundaries and saying, are you okay with this? And kind of understanding yourself, like what the boundaries are for the people that are around you,
right?
And having that respect to be able to stay within the boundaries that you're given without feeling like somebody did something to you or violated something you're entitled to, or whatever the case may be.
Right. So we'll use this example. So at work, you may have a coworker that doesn't understand boundaries, and they could do things like take things from your desk without asking, or interrupt you and jump into the middle of a conversation they wasn't invited into. And sometimes it can be a hard, difficult conversation to have with them because they don't realize they're doing these things. It's causing bigger issues at the workplace, at home, mm-hmm. And it may make them seem socially awkward, but it's more about boundaries. And so we'll talk about what are some healthy boundaries. When do you know it's unhealthy and when it is healthy boundaries? So if it's in the workplace or if it's in your personal life, we're going to help you out with that today. I can give you some examples as, me personally, mm-hmm. from the time, being young and getting a little older. I can tell you it's been times where boundaries were crossed, and I know the boundaries was crossed because I allowed those boundaries not to be set. Mm-hmm. When you don't set boundaries with people, they're okay with crossing how far they can go because they don't know where the boundary lies. And then you look up and like, wow, why did you feel like that was okay? But you never told them that it's not okay to do this or say this. And then now you're trying to correct bad behavior, and it's okay, but just understand it's not going to be easy.
Well, that goes back to what you were saying before. Like when kids are children, young children, it's important to implement boundaries in a healthy way so they understand what's okay for you and what's not okay for you. And when they see, and even if I pull it back even more, and that's why I pulled up the paper. So having healthy boundaries helps us to develop a positive self-concept and self-image, communicating to others that we have self-respect, that we see worth within ourselves, that we hold true to our values. Personal boundaries can be physical, emotional, and mental. They're limits that we establish to protect ourselves from being manipulated, used, or violated by others. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to read that just because I think that sometimes people don't really understand like what a boundary is. They allow you to separate yourself from you and who you are and what you think and what you feel like you're okay with and what you feel like you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with, and being able to verbalize that in a respectful and dignified way for other people to respect.
Right.
And when somebody crosses that line, then you can say, this is a line that's already been set for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then that'll be what you go into later. But it's one of those things where you have to draw the line for somebody and say, this is my expectation for myself. This is what I'm comfortable with. And if you're not going to abide by this, then what?
Right.
And I think
I
think that's the biggest issue for people, is that in dating, relationships, friendships, family, whatever, we think that by having a specific type of relationship with somebody, we are entitled to something.
Right.
And it's important that, one, we communicate whatever it is our expectation is. Because I'm not saying that you shouldn't want something,
mm-hmm.
right? Because we all want certain things from certain types of relationships. If I say, my expectation is that if I'm dating someone, these are the types of things that they do, you may not be that person. Like, you may not want to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I would say, like, oh, if I'm dating somebody, I only want to go out with them once a week. Well, if you're not in the position to take me out once a week, you may not be for me to be dating. End of story. I could like you all day. I could find you attractive. I could think I want to. But if you're not abiding by, and that seems very simple and like mindless, but it was just an example of, like, if this is what I am thinking for myself and you can't feel that, that's okay.
Right.
I'm not mad at you. I'm not resentful towards you. It just is what it is. But people have to understand that when you draw that line and it is what it is, I don't have to be nasty or angry or mean. It just is.
Right.
And we can either decide to cut ties or change the dynamics of that relationship. Maybe you're not for me to date. Maybe we're just meant to be friends.
Right.
Or maybe that's not, a friendship I need to have. Maybe we're just business acquaintances and
right.
we don't need to have an actual friendship.
Yeah.
And I think that people get that misconstrued and they think right away, if it's uncomfortable for me or I don't like it, or you set a boundary that I'm uncomfortable with, I can't talk to you no more. Or
right.
I don't want to deal with you anymore because
right.
now I'm uncomfortable.
Right. And I see where you're coming with that. I have a question for you. So let's say in relationships, there's boundaries I think should be established when it comes to privacy. Mm-hmm. So when you're in a relationship, people think that you should be engulfed in everything that the other person's doing. You should know who they're talking to, where they're going. That you can open up boxes that don't have your name on it, like things like that. I think boundaries are set when it comes to saying, hey, it's okay to be an individual, and I don't need to be involved in everything that you got going on, because that makes you your own individual self. Not saying having secrets and things like that, but when a person is just snooping through your stuff intentionally, I think that's a boundary people are crossing, realizing that's
definitely a boundary issue.
Not realizing that it's a boundary. Absolutely. It doesn't matter that you're in a relationship. This person has their own things. Doesn't mean that you need to be going through their own things.
We talked about this briefly prior to recording, and I said the same thing to you then. Every relationship is different, right?
Right.
What we establish in our relationship is going to be different from somebody else, right? But my stuff is my stuff. Your stuff is your stuff.
Right.
If you put it away, I'm not digging through your drawers to try to find it. If it's closed, it's going to stay closed. I'm not rummaging through your stuff to try to pull things out. Now, if we have the type of relationship where it's known and it's discussed that I'm comfortable with you going through my things, or I don't mind you going in that box, or that box is not personal to me, there's nothing in there that's a secret, or I feel like you can't see, then sure, go ahead. But respect people's privacy.
Hey, I just think it's kind of strange when you see people in relationships, and it's just me, like, if you do this in your relationship, you're okay with it, but like the person will just snatch the other person's phone out their hand and go through their phone. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, that's weird. If y'all had a relationship, great. I just think that my mom raised me differently, right? So I would never go in a woman's purse. I think we talked about this on a previous show. But I would never go in a woman's purse. So if you want to hide something, like put it in your purse, I would never find it. I would never go in the purse.
So what? Okay, so say this, because I had this scenario, right? So say we're dating, and I tell you, hey, can you grab my purse and reach in there and get my? You'll tell me no.
I'll bring you your purse. I will bring it to you and let you get it out yourself. A woman's purse is sacred.
Like, what if I'm doing something that I can't reach into the purse and get it?
All right, I would say I would never do it. I'm very uncomfortable. I'm very, very uncomfortable because I just don't touch women's purses.
So here's the thing with that, and that was a great example because it brings up the boundary issue as well on both sides, right? I'm asking for you to go into something that you're totally uncomfortable with. The boundary for both of us is, I don't care that you're going through my purse. You feel uncomfortable doing it. Part of your boundary and setting that boundary is saying it's not something I feel comfortable doing, so I'm choosing not to do it.
Yeah. It has to be something like life or death. Like reach in there and grab the EpiPen. I'm going to get the EpiPen out the bag. But
and I'm not saying this is a very superficial example. This is not a life or death situation. So I don't expect anyone to get into an argument about reaching into somebody's purse. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's important to understand that it's okay to say no. Just as much as it's important to understand that it's okay to ask.
Yeah.
And there's not an issue with asking for something and getting a no. And I think that's the biggest problem is that people think if I ask for something and this person says no, I can't do that, immediately the problem is on both ends, right? The person who says no sometimes feels bad for saying no. Oh, well damn, now I made them feel bad. And they have that in their head. And then the person that received the no is oh my God, they said no to me. Now my feelings are hurt. Maybe they're mad. And that there's all that. Instead of just, it is what it is. And I asked for something, I got a no. People are allowed to say no. And they asked for something, I didn't want to do it, and I said no. And I'm allowed to say no. I have the right to do that. And people can't leave things like that. People feel oh my God, maybe they're mad. Oh my God, maybe something happened because it was uncomfortable. It just is. It's uncomfortable maybe, but it's just uncomfortable. It's nothing more.
That's fine. And so with that being said, we're going to talk about a couple things. One, what are some unhealthy signs of boundaries, right? And some signs of healthy boundaries. I think we need to know these things because we read the list prior to the show, and I'm wow, I never
think
thought
of some of those things.
That was something, but we go through life thinking that things should look one way and be one way, and not realizing why we're getting frustrated because no one likes to be felt like they don't have a boundary to put out. If I say, hey, this is a thing for me and I'm not okay with that, don't shame somebody for saying that because they're now you're trying to dictate how I react and what I do and I don't do. I've done this other relationships. I said this. I'm listen, that's okay.
That's just not me.
That's just not me. But don't shame me or make me feel bad for saying I'm not okay with that. And so, but some things that help you identify what are some signs of unhealthy boundaries.
So,
you want to tell
yeah.
Okay. All right.
I don't even need the notes.
Okay.
Some easy telltale signs for unhealthy boundaries, especially in the beginning. So I'm going to go if I was meeting a brand new person. So some easy signs are going to be people who you meet immediately and they dump their whole life story on you. That's an unhealthy boundary. Why? Because I don't need to know your whole life story right away, day one. Another good sign is somebody who's willing to either give a whole bunch of stuff, the people give money, give this, let me do this for you, let me do that for you, from day one. Unhealthy boundaries. Why?
Yeah.
And then the person who's willing to receive all of those things, also unhealthy boundaries. Pretty much anything that's abusive is an unhealthy boundary because obviously you shouldn't hit people, you shouldn't abuse people, you shouldn't take advantage of people, you shouldn't those are all unhealthy boundaries. Even abuse towards yourself is an unhealthy boundary.
Wow.
So
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
So when I say abuse towards yourselves, I'm talking about something like overeating.
That's a form of abuse.
It's a form of abuse because you're abusing your own body.
Did you think about that? When you said that when we were before the show, I was like, wow, I never thought.
Yeah, because in a way, you're abusing yourself.
Yeah.
So it's a sign of having unhealthy boundaries in general. So yeah. Generally speaking, somebody who does abuse themselves in some way, obviously, they
wouldn't care about somebody else's.
Wouldn't be as aware of other people's personal boundaries, because I don't even have boundaries for myself. Like, I don't know where to draw the line for myself. How could I, like, do that for somebody else? So that's where it comes into deep. Like, asking somebody, like, is this okay? You know, or can I do this? Or do you mind? Or even somebody like, you know, when you meet somebody and, like, I'm one of those, like, I'm a hugger. But that's a way of, like, asking, are you okay with me hugging you? I'm letting you know that I'm a hugger. Is that okay? And some people open their arms and say, sure. And some people don't. I don't need to be uncomfortable with the people who don't.
Now, let's be clear. Some of y'all don't understand. When you say, oh, I'm a hugger, and you go in for the hug, you have to read body language. Because some people are like, they'll take the hug.
And give people time to respond to things.
Like, ask, is it okay? Don't just automatically get up and get into the hug. I will say this, I love y'all. Some of y'all see me in public, and y'all was like, I'm a hugger. I've been watching you. I want to hug you, and then you go to hug me, and I'm like, I don't know you. I'm a hugger too, but I hug people that I know. I'm weird like that. One, I'm an energy person, and then I like smells. So if you don't smell well, it won't translate well to me. That's a boundary I have. So if you don't smell well, don't
smell well. I like it. Smell well.
If you don't smell well, I'm gonna put a boundary there. But yeah, ask. I think if you ask someone, then you're breaking down the boundary. Not just a hug, but just initiating a certain conversation. To your point, oversharing. It's like, hey, do you mind if I share this
or
with you?
Or do you feel comfortable? Or I mean, it's a common, like, phrase, but people go, oh, I don't know if you mind. Or do you mind if I ask? Like, ask those questions. Are you comfortable with talking about? Or even something as simple as saying, like, understanding when somebody shares something with you out of a courtesy, or like, this is what's going on in my life, like thanking that person and saying thank you for trusting me, or you know, for, you know, acknowledging that somebody opened up something more for you when they did have healthy boundaries, and they do have healthy boundaries, and they're sharing with you on a consistent basis, but opening up slowly, because that's more appropriate. An interesting one that we both talked about when we were looking at the list was, what was it? It was about intimacy. So it was, having sex and only having sex to please the other person. And you were like, what?
It was kind of hard to understand until you explained it to me.
So when you're intimate with someone, part of intimacy is two people being intimate together, right? So it's about me pleasing you, you pleasing me. It's a give and take. A lot of people, and I mean, hopefully we're all grown, but a lot of people have heard other people say in conversation, like, oh, I'm pleased by pleasing, right? I like to know that I'm doing. That's unhealthy boundaries. That's kind of a red flag, really.
Is that unhealthy for you or them?
It's them.
Okay, so unhealthy for them.
So if I say my goal in having sex is to please the other person, and because I see them pleased, I am pleased.
Yes.
That is an unhealthy process of me thinking. That's unhealthy boundaries for myself. Because what that is me saying, in order for me to be okay with this, I have to make sure I'm fulfilling a certain expectation for you.
Oh, it's like the fetishes. You know you are.
The feet
when
people.
You do the whole fetish and you like, I'll do this for you, and then
stop.
You're like,
That's another show.
But you know what I'm talking about, though. Like,
That's gross.
I'm not shaming you at all. It is what it is. But understand, like, if that is a thing for you, it could be unhealthy.
It could be. I mean, anything over the top, anything overboard is unhealthy. Like, too much of anything is no good.
Yeah, I can see that.
You know, like, whatever it is, too much of anything is no good.
It's unhealthy. Yeah.
But when you go into something, so a lot of these, in reference to that, it said being sexual for your partner and not yourself. And then it went into like the process of the relationships, like letting others define you, letting others direct the path of your life, letting others, you know, describe your reality. So if I tell you something you're feeling is wrong, you walk away feeling like it's wrong.
And that's called gaslighting.
That's another show.
Okay.
But it's a sign of unhealthy boundaries
Yeah.
to tell somebody that how they feel is wrong. Like, who are you to tell me that what I'm thinking or feeling is wrong?
I think we all have done that before, though.
Absolutely.
And
but it's a way of communicating. It's about being mindful that, now, don't get it twisted, because some of y'all be thinking crazy. Like, some of y'all are wrong. Anyway.
It's unhealthy.
But there's a way to share those things.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it depends on the relationship you have with that person.
Yeah.
So if there's a process of communicating with this person, whatever it is, being able to say, hey, you know, I know that you said you felt this way. Can you explain that to me a little better? Or, you know, can we sit down and talk about it so maybe I can understand a little bit better? And if that person says, no, I don't want to talk to you about it, that's their right.
That's another thing, too. So respect someone when they say, listen, I don't want to talk about that right now, or I'm going to end this conversation now. That's a boundary, right? So we need to stop.
Respecting their time, their space, their availability, their, like, people have lives, and some people are not available when you're available. And it's unfortunate because there might be somebody that, like, I want their attention at a specific time or specific place, or, you know, I might want to spend time with them, or I might really like them. Maybe it's just not mutual.
Yeah.
Or maybe they don't have the time in their life, or maybe it's just not the right time for them, or whatever the case may be. I have to accept that.
Yeah, accept it.
And no matter how much that is hurtful, or it feels, you know, it feels like you were rejected, or you're angry, or whatever, you have to respect that.
And it's not on you. It's nothing wrong with you per se. They're just not in that space. And that's you respecting the boundaries. Right? So I think when somebody tells you, listen, I'm not in that space right now, and you could, to your point, you continue trying to have that conversation. If it's even it's not have to be an argument. It can be something that you just want to share. And then, look, I can't right now. I'm not in that space right now.
Now you're dancing on that line of violating their personal boundaries.
If you get upset at that, right? You know, I want to talk right now.
Boundaries. It's an issue.
That's the issue. So you gotta understand they're not there yet, right? So what's some other great things for us here?
Okay, so let's do healthy boundaries. Appropriate trust.
So what is appropriate trust? Let's talk about that real quick.
So appropriate trust is going to be something like meeting someone and developing trust over time, right? So I meet you, say we're dating. You say, Amanda, I'm going to be there at 8 o'clock. Okay. You're going to be here at 8 o'clock. Say they don't show up at 8 o'clock. Well, now I know you're probably not as reliable with time. But that's not the first time. Like, say it happens a couple of times, because the first time could be like a fluke. But you have to build up that consistency for somebody to know and understand that, yes, I see every time you tell me you're going to be here at a specific time, you're here. Or every time you say you're going to call me back, you call me back. Every time you say whatever it is that you're telling me, I see that follow through. or I see the follow through of at least contacting me to say, hey, I'm not able to. It's just the consistency and follow through with communication and, you know, building trust in a relationship.
Yeah.
And even seeing who that person is, their character with other people. So it could be something as simple as like you telling me, hey, on Friday, I'm going to spend the day with my son. Then Friday comes and you're like, I don't really feel like spending time with my son today. You didn't do anything to me. But I'm definitely in a process where I'm looking at you and I'm developing trust in some way, whether it be like a lack thereof, or seeing, you know what, when he says he's going to do something with his son, he's there and he spends the day with his son. And we're developing that relationship where I know what's going on in your life and I can see that consistency consistently building.
Right. Okay.
So that's appropriate trust. It's like,
I can see that.
The follow through, and as time goes on, that's going to come also with like communication or telling somebody secrets, or spending time with somebody and they're not out there like, oh, I was with Amanda last night and I did blah 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 blah, you know, whatever.
Right.
Or, you know, things like that. That's building appropriate trust. Is that, you know, everybody doesn't need to know your business. Everybody doesn't need to know what's going on in your personal life. So, you know, putting that information where you think it's okay, not where everybody else thinks they're entitled to.
Okay. Well, there you go. I like that.
You want a couple more?
Yeah, give me a couple more.
I like the ones that are personal for us. So it'll be like trusting your own decisions, defining your truth as you see it, respect for others, so not taking advantage.
Let's go back. Yeah, so your truth one. What was that? Defining
your truth as you see it.
This is important because your reality is your truth. And sometimes people can try to sway you to believe something that may not be your truth, right? So I may believe something and you may believe something differently, slightly, not completely off the rails. Mm-hmm. But because I say, hey, this is what it is, and then you go, well, no, it's not quite. But that's your reality. Trust yourself first. Mm-hmm. Because you know what you see, hear, smell, and taste. And no one else can tell you if that's real or not. Now, there is moments where you may have a little off. You know what I'm saying? You might be real back in, and you know when you kind of off the rails. But what I'm saying, for the most part, trust yourself.
And be able to say, I think the like how I said earlier, the communication in that is so important. Because when I communicate what the truth is for me, it is mine.
Yes.
So I can very easily turn around and say, okay, if that's what you believe, that's cool. This is what I believe.
Right.
And this is why. If you don't agree with it, fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Just like if you don't agree with me, that's fine. Mm-hmm. I think we spend so much time trying to convince someone else that my way is the right way.
Yeah.
That it becomes this argument of who should be doing what.
Yeah.
And it's not really, like, I can't make you see what I see. I can't make you understand what I understand.
Yeah.
Or the way I understand it. I think it's a matter of people respecting other people's opinions and views, and people having respect for themselves enough to not stoop down to that level.
Yeah.
And dig this hole to just try to make somebody join them. Because it's not my job to convince you.
Yeah.
You know, it's my job to, like, if I feel like I'm educating you on something, or if I feel like, you know, in our talk we talked about like opportunities to share information. Like, maybe your information is misguided, or maybe you have been miseducated in some way, and me saying like, you know what, I probably have a resource that I can share with you. Mm-hmm. Or this is why I think that maybe you should check it out. Because if I'm really open to learning, and I'm really open to learning and growing and building or whatever, then I'll take the time to maybe look at what you give me.
Yeah.
Or maybe listen to what you're sharing and say like, maybe I could incorporate that if I believe it. And if I don't believe it, do away with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that. Live your truth. It is what it is.
Weighing consequences before acting on certain impulses. Noticing when someone else displays inappropriate boundaries and noticing when other people display appropriate boundaries. So being aware enough to say, obviously, for your example earlier, like the hug situation, if you say, I'm a hugger, and you pause, or is that okay, or something, give somebody a minute to respond. Because if you just dive in, that's inappropriate on your part. But give somebody, you know, do you mind handshaking, or do you mind hugging, or, you know, do you mind touching, or whatever the case may be. There are certain people that, you know, you go on dates a couple times, they're all for PDA. You're out in public, they're ready to put their arm around you, hold hands. I've specifically had the experience where I went out with somebody and it was the funniest thing ever. I went out with somebody and they tried to hold my hand, and I was like, I'm not really hand holder. Like, I'm not that girl.
The huggy upper. Not in public.
Like, not date 2 or date 3 or date 4. Like, don't hold my hand. Don't do that. Like,
Side note. So is holding hands like a sign of commitment?
I don't know.
I think either a protection or commitment. I think I had this conversation with somebody. They were like, if you holding someone's hand, because you know you hold your child hand like across the street, so it's like protection.
It's like I said, it's different for everybody. Like, some people hold hands in an affectionate way, like they're happy to, like, trotting down the street, like holding hands, and it's cute. And some people are, it's a protection thing. Some people are like, it's a
possessive thing.
I was trying to think of like a,
this is mine, don't touch that,
like a machismo, like, get over here,
pissing on your tree.
Yeah, like that kind of thing, the fire hydrant. So
I get
it just depends on the person, and again, it's about what's okay for you. I'm not that girl. Like, don't
grab.
I'm not her.
Don't grab the hand.
And that wasn't even the first date. I want to say it was like a few, but don't grab my hand. Don't grab my hand. If I grab you, yeah, maybe one day, but
not quite there yet.
Yeah, nah. Look, that's just not for everybody.
So you're not on, like, holding hands, wearing matching outfits. Like, I go to the store and
First
get
of all,
the matching
don't
fits.
you ever. Now, I will say that. Ever. Never.
Like the Adidas outfits, the Adidas sweats.
Are we doing a photo shoot?
No, it's like every day we're going out. We're going to go kick it for the day. You would never do that.
Not unless we're doing a photo shoot.
It's a boundary, guys.
Photo shoot? Maybe.
What if y'all had, like, canary yellow suits on together?
Never.
What y'all going to
Never.
To an event?
No. We could wear
like matching colors?
Like complementary colors.
So never like the royal blue dress with the royal blue suit? Oh, wow.
We're not going to prom?
There's
like,
there's boundaries here. You can't.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's
that is a boundary though. I would say this. Listen, there's a little weird, guys, when you like overdo it. Y'all having like.
That's what I'm saying.
You see what people have, like the same shoes, the same Jordans.
Don't walk next to me and be like
grabbing it. Oh, swinging it. Don't swing the hand, guys. Don't swing hands. Don't swing the hand.
It's just weird. Like, and that's
Could he put his arm around you?
Yeah.
Hand in the back pocket of your booty?
He better not.
No, arm around the shoulder, around the neck. You guys just walking side by side like soldiers. What y'all doing here? What's that? Guys, I'm sorry. Don't hold her hand. She doesn't want that.
Look, okay, here's the deal. If we're talking about me personally, first date, you probably won't even have the opportunity to do that because I'll probably meet you there. Like, you ain't even got to worry about it.
Don't pick me up.
Yeah, don't pick me up. You're not picking me up.
On first date, no?
No.
Huh.
You're not picking me up. There's a disclaimer for those of you who ever want to try. You're not picking me up on the first date. Don't even think about it. You're not picking me up.
First boundary.
Don't
offer to pick me up.
Don't offer to pick me up. You're not coming to my house. You're not coming over to hang out. Like, none of those things are happening on the first date. Never. So you put it out there. Like, My house, off limits.
Off limits.
Off
Boundaries.
limits. You're not coming to my house. Like, you'd be lucky to get a FaceTime and know what my house looks like.
If y'all ever see pictures of Amanda on like social media with someone and they're in matching outfits,
right?
Listen, that's real. Let me tell you something, because she's against it 100%.
So put it this way: you see me with somebody with a matching outfit. You see me walking down the street like swinging, holding hands. You see me like, I don't even know what else I would do.
Arm around the back, around the shoulders.
That's not too bad.
Hands in the back pocket.
That's not, the arm around the shoulder thing is not terrible. Holding hands things, that's like extra weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got into a whole argument about that because the guy was like, "What?"
I don't know how we got here, but like, what about you standing somewhere and he comes behind you, he rocks you like this in public? You know what I'm talking about? Like, is this all in your space in public? No.
First of all, there better not be a grown man that I go out with on this planet that does any rocking in public.
Like, no. Like, yo.
That's why you're laughing. That's why you're laughing, because you know.
You've seen them though. Come here, girl.
I have seen it, but no.
And
I'm not a dog.
Guys, it's okay.
I'm not a dog.
Don't let her shame you. Hug your girl and rock back and forth all you want.
You can go if your girl loves it. If you like it, I love it. That's fine. Just don't do it over here. Look, don't piss on this tree. Don't hold my hand. Like, no. Now, I would say, just to be safe, let me initiate it.
If she holds your hand.
There's the boundary.
There you go.
Wait for me. I got it. Don't even worry about it, because I'm affectionate when I want to be.
Fair enough. Boundaries. I don't know. I wanted to talk about this today because it is important. Some of you are out there struggling with this, having difficult conversations and don't know where to start. We're going to put some links down below so you can actually review this information. We got some handouts and stuff here. And
we'll put the information on the book if you really want to get into it.
Yeah.
But it's real. Like, just respect what people ask for. And if it's not within what you want,
it's okay. Figure
out a way to either like move that relationship in a different direction or let it go. Like, we just talked about this too. Like, life is too short, and we spend a lot of time being frustrated or being angry or arguing or going back and forth about what we want versus what somebody else wants. And, you know, I didn't do this because of this, or you're not fulfilling some crazy expectation I have. And it's like, people who want to be present in the way that you want them to be present may not have the availability or the space to do it, or the mindset or the maturity or whatever it is. If it's not matching up for you, then it's not for you.
Exactly.
And we have to, I think the hardest part is learning to be okay with that.
Mm-hmm. And set those boundaries. So, there you go. If you're out there having those difficult conversations, hope this helped. Boundaries can look like a speed bump or crown tape if you want it to be. Depends on how you want to move that relationship. Thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure y'all check the next one coming up as well. It's going to be very interesting. And if you haven't followed us already, go ahead on your social media. Click on The Morning Coffee Show on Facebook and The Morning Coffee Show on Instagram. You can follow me on IG at P Hakeem, and hers is
it'll be
right here.
Yeah.
She had it at one point and then changed it again and then changed it again and then changed it another time.
And now I have it. I'm there. Look, it's a slow process. I'm building here, okay? I'm human.
No, fair enough. That's what we got right here.
There you go.
All right, until next time. Peace.